Welcome to Subscribe, continually updated.
You know what I mean when I say some families have a golden child? Well, in my mom's house, my brother Troy was the whole damn gold mine. And me? I was just the dirt they dug him out of. It started on a Tuesday night. I was 23, working double shifts as a nursing assistant at the county home, saving up for I don't even know what anymore. A life, maybe. I'd just gotten home, kicked off my shoes, and was staring into the fridge hoping something good would magically appear, when my mom, Linda, walked into the kitchen holding a stack of flattened moving boxes. She didn't knock. She never did. She just stood there in her robe, that one with the little coffee stain on the sleeve she could never quite get out, and said it like she was telling me about the weather. "Emily, I need you to pack up your things. Troy's moving back home, and the basement's too damp for his equipment. He needs your room." I just stared at her. My room? His room, she corrected me, not even blinking. He's your brother. He's got that new business venture starting up, the one I told you about? With the custom t-shirts? He needs a stable place, a proper workspace. You're a girl, you'll land on your feet somewhere. You always do. I remember the kitchen clock ticking. That old one above the stove that was always 5 minutes slow. Tick. 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 It felt like it was hammering nails into my chest. Mom, where am I supposed to go? You can figure it out. You're 23. After all I've done for you, you owe me this. Your brother needs this chance. You don't want to be the reason your own brother fails, do you? There it was. Her catchphrase. After all I've done for you. She'd used it when she made me drop out of community college to work more hours so Troy could finish his business seminars. She'd used it when she took the money I'd saved for a used car and gave it to Troy for a networking trip to Vegas. And now she was using it to take the roof over my head. Troy came waltzing in from the living room, a half-eaten bag of chips in his hand. I could hear the football game still blaring in the background. He was 30 back then, 2 years older than me, and he hadn't held a real job in 6 years. The thing is, he always had this smirk, like the whole world was a joke only he got. "Hey, Em, don't make this weird, okay," he said, crumbs falling on the floor. "This is a huge opportunity for me. I'm gonna make it big this time. You just don't get it." My hands were shaking. "Troy, where have you been living for the last year? Weren't you staying with that guy from the gym?" He rolled his eyes. "That fell through. Partner bailed. Totally not my fault. Come on, 3 days is plenty of time. I need to set up my printers." 3 days. I had 3 days to pack up 18 years of my life in that room. The room with the window that looked out on the backyard I'd mowed every Saturday. The room with the little notch on the doorframe where Mom had marked my height when I was 7, before she stopped marking anything about me at all. I called my Aunt Jane that night. Jane's my mom's older sister, and they're about as similar as a steak and a salad. Jane runs a little diner over on Mill Road, the kind of place where the coffee's always hot and the advice is always free and usually a little brutal. I told her what happened, crying so hard I could barely get the words out. Jane was quiet for about 2 seconds. Then she said, "All right. Grab what matters. Don't bother trying to take the furniture. Your mother'll probably give that to Troy too, to sell for one of his harebrained schemes. You come here. I got a pull-out couch in the back office. It ain't fancy, but nobody's gonna kick you out of it." So I did. I packed 2 suitcases and a cardboard box. My clothes. A few old photos. A little porcelain bird my grandma had given me before she passed. Mom didn't even say goodbye. She was on the phone with someone from church, already telling them how excited she was that Troy was coming home to launch his enterprise. Aunt Jane's back office smelled like fried onions and old paper. But that pull-out couch felt more like a home than my own room had in the last 10 years. Life's like a badly seasoned steak, honey, Jane told me that first morning, sliding a plate of eggs in front of me. Sometimes you just gotta spit out the gristle and keep chewing. Your mother's been serving you gristle your whole life. Time to find a new plate. 5 years went by. That's the thing about life, you know? It just keeps going, whether you're ready or not. I kept working. 2 jobs, then 3. I took extra shifts on holidays because I didn't have anywhere else to be. Jane let me stay in that back office for 2 years, wouldn't take a dime of rent, just made me help out bussing tables on Sundays after church. I got my nursing assistant certification upgraded to a full LPN license. I saved every penny I could. And then, about 3 weeks ago, I did something I never thought I'd be able to do. I bought a house. Hell no, not a nice house. Don't get me wrong. It was a foreclosure over on Cedar Street, a little 2-bedroom bungalow that had been sitting empty for 2 years. The porch sagged like an old man's shoulders. The paint was peeling so bad it looked like the house had a skin disease. The backyard was a jungle of weeds and dead things. But the foundation was solid. Jane's friend, an old contractor who owed her a favor, inspected it for me. He said the bones were good. And the price? The price was something I could actually afford, thanks to a first-time homebuyers program at the county credit union. That first night I unlocked my own front door, I just stood in the empty living room and cried. Good tears, you know? The kind that wash something clean. I had my own kitchen. My own bathroom. A little bedroom and, get this, a second bedroom. A spare room. For no one but me to decide what to do with. I planted tomatoes in the backyard. Just 3 little starter plants from the farmer's market, the kind that looked kind of sad and hopeful at the same time. Aunt Jane said I was trying to rescue everything that got abandoned. She wasn't wrong. I hadn't spoken to my mom or Troy in 5 years. Not one phone call. Not one Christmas card. Jane told me bits and pieces, that Troy's t-shirt business had lasted about 4 months, that Linda had taken out a second mortgage to pay off his debts, that Troy was between opportunities again. I listened, nodded, and went back to scrubbing the grout in my new bathroom. I didn't say it out loud, but I thought it. You reap what you sow, Mom. And then last Saturday morning, everything flipped. I was out front, trying to fix that sagging porch step with a crowbar and a YouTube tutorial, when a car pulled up to the curb. A car I recognized. A beat-up old Buick with a cracked taillight and a faded "My son is a successful entrepreneur" bumper sticker that was peeling off at the edges. My heart just stopped. I straightened up, crowbar still in my hand, and watched my mother get out of the driver's seat. She looked smaller than I remembered. Her hair was more gray than brown now, pulled back in a clip that looked like it was losing the battle. Her coat was wrinkled, and she was holding her purse tight against her chest like a shield. She walked up the broken concrete path to my porch. She looked at me. She looked at the house. Her mouth opened and closed a couple of times, like a fish on a dock. Emily. Her voice cracked on my name. Oh, thank God. I found you. She looked at me with these big, wet eyes. Eyes I'd never seen on her before. Desperate eyes. I need your help, she whispered. Please. It's about the house. Our house. I'm gonna lose it, Emily. And you're the only one who can save it. You owe me this. And there it was. 5 years, and she still had the nerve to say I owed her. I just stood there on that crooked porch step, holding my crowbar, looking at the woman who'd thrown me away like yesterday's trash. I took a breath. My hand went to my pocket, touched my phone. Out of habit, I pressed the voice recorder app. Just in case. Tell me what happened, Mom, I said. My voice came out a lot steadier than I felt. But I already knew, looking at her face, that whatever story she was about to tell me, it was gonna be a doozy. And I had a feeling it was gonna end with me having to make a choice that she'd never, ever made for me. Linda took a deep breath and looked down at her hands, twisting twisting a tissue between her fingers like she was trying to strangle it. Troy had a business idea, she said. A real one this time. He needed startup money. The bank wouldn't give him a loan on his own, so I let him use the house as collateral. My house. The one your granddad left me. She said my house like she was daring me to correct her. I didn't. I just leaned the crowbar against the porch railing and crossed my arms. How much? I asked. She flinched. 130,000. I let out a low whistle. And the business? Her face went kind of crumbly. It didn't work out. The guy he partnered with took off with most of the money. Troy says he's got a lawsuit, but these things take time. Meanwhile, the bank doesn't want to wait. They sent the foreclosure notice last month. I've got 60 days, Emily. 60 days, or I'm out on the street. There it was. The same old story. Troy's big dreams, and Linda left holding the bag. But I still didn't see what any of this had to do with me. So I just waited. She dabbed at her eyes. The bank, they did something. They looked up the old property records from when your grandfather divided up his land. Seems when he did, he made a mistake, or didn't finish the paperwork, I don't know. But they're saying my house and that shack you bought are still legally connected. Some kind of easement or shared parcel clause. If they foreclose on me, they need your signature to clear the title. If you don't sign, they take your place, too. She looked up at me, her eyes all hopeful. But if you sign this paper I have, the bank says they can move forward with the auction and leave your little house alone. You just give up the claim on mine. It's just a piece of paper, honey. A formality. It won't cost you a thing. I didn't say anything for a good long minute. The afternoon sun was slanting through the oak tree, and I could hear kids playing somewhere down the block. It felt like the whole world was normal except for this little porch where everything was upside down. Let me get this straight, I said. Troy took out a loan, lied about having a business, lost all your money, now the bank is coming to take your house, and your solution is I should give up something so you don't have to pay for his mistakes. Again. He's your brother, she said, and her voice had that hard edge now. The you owe me voice. And I'm your mother. That house is where you grew up. Do you really want to see me homeless? I was homeless, I said, quiet. You made me that way 5 years ago, remember? You gave my room to Troy. Her face went red. That was different. You were grown. You could take care of yourself. Troy needed stability. He's sensitive. You know that. Before I could answer, an engine roared up the street and died right in front of my house. An old Mustang, primer gray, wheezed to a stop. I recognized that car. I'd heard it sputtering and dying for years in the driveway of my childhood home. Troy got out. He was 30 now, but he looked older. He'd put on weight around his middle, and his hair was thinning on top. He had on a polo shirt with a coffee stain and jeans that were too tight. He stomped up the walkway like he owned the place. Did you tell her? He said to Linda, not even looking at me. I was just explaining the situation, Linda said, her voice turning sweet again. Emily's going to help us. She's family. Troy finally turned to me. He pointed a finger. Look, Emily, I don't know what Mom's been telling you, but I've got a deal lined up. A real deal. I just need a little more time. If you sign that paper, we can buy me 3 months, and then I'll have the money to pay off the whole thing. You'd be stupid not to sign. I laughed. I couldn't help it. The sound just came out of me, dry and hollow. You want me to be stupid so you can be smart, I said. That's always been the deal, hasn't it, Troy? I do the sacrificing, you do the taking. Don't you dare make this about the past, Linda said, standing up now. This is about our family's home. Just then, my front door opened. I hadn't even heard the footsteps inside. Aunt Jane stepped out onto the porch, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She must have come in through the back while I was talking out front. She planted herself right next to me, solid as a fire hydrant. I heard yelling, she said, her eyes going straight to Linda. Thought a couple of raccoons got into the trash. Linda's mouth tightened. Jane. This is a private family matter. Yeah, I know. Jane folded the towel over her shoulder. I'm family. The one who actually acts like it. What's going on? Emily's house is tied up with mine, Linda said, and she needs to sign a release so the bank doesn't take her place, too. I'm trying to help her. Jane looked at me, and I shook my head just a tiny bit. She got the message. How about you tell the whole story, Linda? Jane said. Like how Troy here ran up a second mortgage, how he hasn't had a job in 4 years, how you've been paying his car insurance and his phone bill and his pizza deliveries while Emily was working double shifts to save up for this house. Troy's face went ugly. Stay out of this, Aunt Jane. You don't know anything. I know a parasite when I see one, Jane said, and her voice was flat as a skillet. I know your mom kicked Emily out with 3 days' notice. I know Emily had to sleep on my couch for a year. And I know you were in Emily's old room the very next day, setting up your office with a TV and a gaming console. Some office. Linda was crying now, but they weren't sad tears. They were angry ones. You always hated me. You and your perfect little restaurant. You have no idea what it's like to raise a sensitive boy on your own. Sensitive? Jane barked out a laugh. You mean spineless. You did this to him, Linda. You broke that boy yourself, and now you want Emily to pay for him being broken. That ain't how this works. I put a hand on Jane's arm. My heart was pounding, but my brain felt clear. I turned back to my mother. I want to see the paperwork, I said. The bank notice, the loan documents, the whole thing. Linda's tears stopped on a dime. You don't believe me? I believe you'd say anything to protect him. I want proof. Troy shoved his hands in his pockets and glared at the ground. This is a waste of time. I told you she wouldn't help, Mom. She's always been selfish. Selfish, I repeated. I almost laughed again. Okay. Come back with the proof. And then we'll talk. Linda grabbed my arm. Her fingers were cold. Emily, please. I'm begging you. We don't have time for this. The clock is ticking. Just sign the paper. It's right here in my purse. She started digging in her bag, but Jane stepped forward and put her body between us. We're done here, Jane said. You heard the woman. Bring the proof. Now get off her porch before I call the sheriff and tell him about the Mustang with the expired tags blocking the street. Troy's head snapped up. You wouldn't. Try me, fat boy. They left. Linda walked backward to the car, her face a mess of misery and fury. Troy gunned the engine and tore off down the street, leaving a puff of blue smoke behind. Jane and I stood there on the porch, not saying anything for a minute. Then she put her arm around my shoulders. You okay, kid? I nodded, but I wasn't, not really. Something was churning in my gut. A feeling I hadn't had in years. It was a feeling that there was more to this story than my mother was telling. More than the foreclosure and the loan and the paper she wanted me to sign. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept thinking about what she said. My house tied up with hers. Some old property records from when Granddad divided the land. I hadn't known anything about that when I bought this place. It was just a cheap little foreclosure I could afford, a fixer-upper with good bones. But if what she said was true, then buying this house hadn't just been luck. It had been fate. The next morning, I drove down to the county records office. Miss Evelyn was behind the counter, the same lady who'd helped me file my deed when I bought the house. She remembered me because I'd brought her a bag of tomatoes from my garden last summer. Morning, Emily, she said. What brings you in? I need to look up some old property records, I said. My grandfather's land. He divided it up back in the 80s. I want to see the original parcel map and the deeds. She raised her eyebrows but didn't ask questions. That's what I liked about Miss Evelyn. She just pointed me to the microfiche machine and brought me a stack of old folders bound with rubber bands. I spent 3 hours in that little room, the fluorescent light humming overhead, turning page after page of yellowed documents. And then I found it. It was a deed. Dated 22 years ago. The year I was born. The paper was stamped with the county seal, and the handwriting was my grandfather's tight, careful script. He'd left his house to Linda, sure. But he'd also left something else. A separate clause, written in and notarized. To my granddaughter, Emily Rose Keller, upon my passing, I leave the southeast parcel of my property, including any and all dwellings built or to be built upon it, to be held in trust until her 21st birthday. Should the primary residence on the main parcel be sold, transferred, or encumbered, the southeast parcel's title shall not be separated without the express written consent of the said Emily Rose Keller, or her legal guardian should she be a minor at the time of my passing. I read it 3 times. Then I read it again. The house I'd bought, the little shack on the southeast corner of the old Keller land, had been mine all along. Not just since last year. Since I was 6 years old and Granddad passed away. Linda had known. She had to have known. And she'd never told me. She'd let me leave, let me struggle, let me save up and buy my own birthright back from a bank that didn't even know what it was selling. And now she wanted me to sign it away to save Troy. Again. I sat back in my chair, the piece of paper trembling in my hand. My phone was still in my pocket, the recording from yesterday safely stored on it. I touched it through the fabric and smiled. She had no idea what was coming. I made a copy of the deed. Then I made 2 more. I thanked Miss Evelyn and walked out into the noon sunshine. The drive back to my little house felt different. Like the road itself had shifted under my wheels. When I pulled into my driveway, there was a note taped to my front door. Written on a piece of lined paper, in Linda's handwriting. Emily, I'm bringing the papers tonight at 7. Please be there. This is the last time I'll ask. Mom. I looked at the note for a long time. Then I looked at the copy of Granddad's deed in my passenger seat. 7 o'clock it is, I said to nobody. I'll be ready. 7 o'clock, and the sun was still hanging low over the backyard. I was sitting on my front steps, watching the tomato vine I'd rescued from the overgrown mess this place used to be. The little red ones were just starting to come in, and I had a bowl of salt in my lap, just in case. Call it a good luck snack. I heard the car before I saw it. Troy's Mustang, still making that grinding sound like it was chewing on gravel. He pulled up to the curb, and Linda got out of the passenger side. She was holding a manila envelope against her chest like a shield, and for the first time in my life, I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Not anger. Not disappointment. Fear. Real, bone-deep fear. Troy slammed his door and walked up like he owned the place. All right, Emily. Let's get this over with. You're gonna sign the papers, and we're all gonna move on. I didn't get up. I just popped a tiny tomato into my mouth and let the salt hit my tongue. Evening, Troy. Mom. Come on in. Aunt Jane was already inside, sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee. She didn't say a word when they walked in, just gave them the same look she gives customers who try to skip out on the check. I closed the screen door behind them, and that old spring creaked like it knew something was about to happen. Linda sat down across from Jane, and Troy stayed standing, pacing like a dog that knows a storm is coming. I took my seat at the head of the table, the one that faces the window looking out on my yard. Okay, Linda said, her voice tight. She pushed the envelope across the table. I brought everything. The bank papers, the title documents. All you have to do is sign the waiver. It frees up the lien, and the bank can do what they need to do with this place. Your father's house will be safe. I didn't touch the envelope. My father's house. You know what I mean. The family home. The family home, I repeated. The one I got told to leave so Troy could have my room. The one where I packed my things into garbage bags while you stood in the hallway telling me I was being selfish. Linda flinched, but she recovered fast. Emily, I know you're angry. I know I made mistakes. But this is bigger than all that. If you don't sign, the bank takes everything. Your brother will be out on the street. I'll be out on the street. And where was I gonna go 5 years ago, Mom? Did you ask yourself that when you told me I had 3 days to figure it out? Troy slammed his hand on the table. Come on. We don't have time for this therapy session crap. Sign the damn paper, Emily. You owe us this. Jane put her coffee mug down with a thump. Troy, you say one more word like that and you're gonna be eating that paper for dinner. Sit down or get out. He backed up a step, but he didn't sit. I looked at Linda. You told me for 23 years that I needed to step aside for Troy, that he was the one who needed support, that I was strong enough to handle it. You ever stop to think what that did to me? I did the best I could, Linda said, and the tears were starting. I didn't know how to do it any different. My mother always favored your uncle, and I swore I wouldn't do that, but then your dad left, and Troy was all I had left of him, and I got lost. This was supposed to hit me. It used to hit me. But I'd heard this song before. It was the same tune, just a different verse. Mom, you didn't get lost. You made a choice. Every day, you made the same choice. And now you're here because that choice is coming due. I reached into my pocket and put my phone on the table. The recording app was visible on the screen. Linda stared at it, and her face went pale. What is that? She whispered. It's from yesterday. When you showed up and told me I had to clean up Troy's mess. Every word you said is on here. How you told me it was my duty. How you said Troy deserved a break. How you said I had no right to say no. I tapped the screen, and a playback started, faint, but clear enough. Her voice came out of the little speaker, sharp and full of something that sounded a lot like entitlement. After all I've done for you, you owe me this. I stopped it. The silence in my kitchen was the loudest thing I've ever heard. You recorded me? Linda's voice cracked. Yeah. Because I knew you'd try to pretend this conversation never happened. Just like you pretended I didn't exist when I was sleeping on Aunt Jane's pull-out couch, working double shifts to save up enough to buy this place. She looked at Jane. You knew about this? Jane shrugged. I wish I'd thought of it first. I pulled out a second piece of paper from my own folder. The copy of Granddad's deed, the one Miss Evelyn had shown me at the county records office. I laid it next to the bank papers Linda had brought, side by side. But this? This is the part you really need to see. Linda looked down at the document. I watched her face as she recognized the handwriting. Granddad's old-fashioned script, the kind he used on all his legal stuff. Her eyes moved across the page, and the fear in them turned into something colder. Horror. Where did you get this? She breathed. From the county. Imagine my surprise when I found out that the little house I saved up 5 years to buy, the one you said was a dump, the one Troy laughed at, was actually left to me in Granddad's will. He put my name on the southeast corner lot when I was 6 years old. 6. And you knew. My voice didn't shake. That surprised me. You knew, you hid it, and you let me spend every penny I had buying something that was already mine. Troy grabbed the paper and read it. What the hell is this? This can't be real. It's real, I said. And it means that this house and the land it sits on aren't just some random property I bought. Legally, this is a separate inheritance parcel, linked to the main property, your property, through a family title arrangement Granddad set up. That's why the bank needed my signature. Because they found out what you tried to bury. Linda's hands were trembling. Emily, I was going to tell you. I needed the money from the sale to help your brother with his business, And I thought if you didn't know, it wouldn't hurt you. It wouldn't hurt me, I repeated. You sold my inheritance out from under me, and you're telling me it was for my own good? Jane stood up then, walked around the table, and put her hand on my shoulder. No words. Just that solid weight. Troy threw the deed back onto the table. This is crap. You can't just pull out some old paper and act like you're the victim here. I'm the one about to lose everything. You're about to lose everything because you took out a loan against a house you never worked for a business you never actually started, I said. That's not my problem. I'll sue you, he said. I'll take you to court. You can't just. There was a knock at the screen door. Everyone froze. Come in, I called. The door opened, and in walked a woman in a simple jacket, carrying a briefcase. She was about my age, with kind eyes and a calm way about her. This was Sarah, the community legal aid counselor I'd met with the day before. Free consultation, paid for by a grant the county had for family disputes. Evening, she said, looking around the table. I'm Sarah Mackenzie. I'm here at Emily's request as her legal advisor, pro bono. I understand there's a title issue being discussed. Troy's face went from angry to confused to something close to panic. Linda stared at Sarah like she was a ghost. You brought a lawyer? A legal advisor, Sarah corrected gently. I'm not here to sue anyone. But I have reviewed the county records and the grandfather's will, and I've advised Emily on her rights. Which are, frankly, very strong. She set her briefcase on an empty chair and pulled out a thin file. The core issue is that the bank's claim relies on an assumption that the two properties are simply part of the same asset. But under this deed, they're distinct, and Emily's inheritance predates any mortgage your son took out. If this goes to court, not only would Emily likely prevail, but the court might find that fraud was committed when the will was concealed. That could lead to serious consequences, including financial penalties for whoever benefited from that concealment. She looked at Troy. I believe that would be you, sir. Troy's mouth opened and closed. Linda was crying now, silent tears running down her face. Please, she whispered. Please, Emily. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. But I'm your mother. Don't let them take my home. Your home, I said, and I finally picked up the bank papers. I looked at the waiver. The signature line was blank, waiting. You know what struck me, when I was reading through all these documents? The part about how, if the bank forecloses, the property will be auctioned off to the highest bidder. I turned to Sarah. Is there anything stopping me from being that highest bidder? Sarah's eyebrows went up, but a small smile touched her lips. Nothing at all. In fact, as an adjacent property holder, the county would likely give you preference. Linda choked. You wouldn't. I set the waiver down and didn't sign it. You're right. I wouldn't just bid on it. I looked her dead in the eyes. I already did. Yesterday morning, before I came to see you. I put in a pre-auction offer with the bank, using my savings and a small loan from Aunt Jane. The offer was accepted this afternoon, contingent on the waiver, which I'm not signing. They'll process the title transfer next week. I let that sink in. I own your house now, Mom. Or I will. All I have to do is wait. The sound Linda made then wasn't a scream, wasn't a cry. It was something lower, something that came from a place she'd never let anyone see. Her whole world had just been rewritten, and she didn't have a pen. Troy grabbed his keys. This is insane. I'm out of here. You're all crazy. He stormed out, the screen door banging shut after him. I heard the Mustang start up, that grinding roar fading down the street. Linda was alone at my table. She looked at Jane, hoping for something, but Jane just shook her head. Then she looked back at me. What are you going to do with it? Throw us out? I stood up and walked to the window. My tomato plant was glowing in the late sun. No, Mom. I'm not going to throw you out. You'll have 30 days to find a new place. That's 30 days more than you gave me. Emily, please, I have nowhere to go. Your brother, Troy's a grown man. Maybe this is the kick he needs. Or maybe not. That's not my job anymore. I turned back to her. I'm going to do something with that house that I think Granddad would have liked. The county runs a program, families, mostly single moms with kids, who are trying to get back on their feet. They need short-term housing. 3 bedrooms, a backyard. Perfect for them. I saw the realization hit her. The house she'd tried so hard to protect for her son was going to be a safe place for people she'd never even think to help. And she couldn't do a single thing about it. Now, I said, unless you want to call me a bunch more names, I think we're done here. She didn't move at first. Then, slowly, she got up. She looked around my kitchen, at the old table, the mismatched chairs, the mason jar full of wildflowers on the windowsill. She looked at the copy of Granddad's deed still lying there. I loved you, Emily. I did. I just didn't know how. I walked her to the door. I know, Mom. And I'm sorry you never figured it out. She stepped out onto the porch, and I watched her walk down the driveway to the street, alone. There was no car waiting. Troy was gone. She'd have to call a cab, or maybe walk the 3 miles back to a house that wasn't hers anymore. I closed the door and leaned against it. Jane poured me a fresh cup of coffee and put it in my hands. Hell of a night, she said. Yeah, I said. An hour later, after Sarah had left and Jane had gone home, I went out to the backyard. The air was cool, and the sky was going purple. I knelt down in the dirt next to that tomato vine, the one I'd found half dead when I moved in. It had been choked out by weeds, neglected, left to fend for itself. But with a little sun, a little water, and a whole lot of not giving up, it had come back stronger than ever. I picked the ripest tomato, still warm from the day, and bit into it. Sweet, salty, a little sour. The taste of something you grew yourself. And I thought about doors. The door to my old room, closed forever. The door to this house, opened by my own hand. The door to that other house, the one that would soon have a new lock and a new purpose. And the door I'd just closed behind the woman who should have been my first safe place. She wasn't. But this? This little yard, this tomato, this quiet table inside, this was safe. And it was mine. I finished the tomato and wiped my hands on my jeans. Tomorrow I'd call the county about the housing program. Tonight, I was just gonna sit here and watch the stars come out. Sometimes the best revenge isn't a fight. It's a life well lived. And right then, I was living mine.